The void of space was never silent. Not really. It whispered, through the hum of distant stars, the dying echoes of forgotten battles, the eerie pulse of something unseen waiting in the abyss. And tonight, aboard the warship Oblivion's Fong, something was waiting. A duel, one that should have been over before it began, was changing everything. A human, Daniel Cross, a prisoner with nothing to lose, stood against Commander Kaylee's Vor, a warrior bred for battle, a force of nature sharpened into a blade. He should have died in the first strike. He should have been a smear on the obsidian floor. But he wasn't, and that was the problem, because Kaylee's didn't just fight to kill. She fought to understand, and the longer Daniel survived, the more she realized he was adapting, learning, becoming something she hadn't anticipated, something dangerous. The warriors watching from the shadows had come expecting an execution. Instead, they were witnessing a shift in power they didn't yet understand. And somewhere beyond the battle, something else was watching too. Before we start, please, subscribe to the channel by clicking the card button on the top right corner now, and hit the notification bell so you can get amazing daily stories as and when published. Please do comment your views about the story or any topic that you want to get a story on. We'll make it happen. Let's dive in the story. The warship Oblivion's Fong drifted through the void like a slumbering beast, its colossal frame silhouetted against the eerie glow of a distant nebula. Inside, deep within its combat arena, a crowd of Zarathian warriors gathered in tight clusters, their armored figures brimming with anticipation. The polished obsidian floor beneath them shimmered under the artificial light, reflecting the disciplined, cold-blooded energy of the moment. At the center of it all stood Commander Kaylee's Vor, tall, statuesque, her piercing golden eyes scanning the scene with the sharpness of a predator. Her long, raven-black hair was tightly braided, strands of silver woven through in symbols of rank and legacy. She held her plasma-edged blade at her side, its cerulean glow casting soft shadows against the sleek lines of her combat suit. She had fought countless battles, bested warriors across the galaxy, and yet, she was here, entertaining a duel with a human. Kaylee's exhaled through her nose. This was a waste of time. Across from her, Daniel Cross, the human prisoner, was rolling his shoulders like he was about to enter a boxing ring, not a fight to the death. His clothes, worn, slightly tattered, hung loosely over his lean but muscular frame. He ran a hand through his disheveled dark hair, flashing an infuriatingly confident smirk. "Wow," he said, glancing around. "Didn't realize I was about to become the entertainment for the evening." No pressure or anything. A few of the Zarathian warriors chuckled, others sneered. They expected him to be slaughtered in the next 60 seconds. Kaylee's remained unmoved. "You requested this duel, human. Do not waste my time with words." Daniel pressed a hand to his chest. "Ouch. Straight to the point. Guess foreplay's not a big thing in your culture." The laughter that rippled through the audience this time was louder. Kaylee's jaw tightened. Enough. This creature thought what would save him. A warrior stepped forward, his battle-scarred face a map of hard-earned victories. He raised a hand. "By the ancient rite, the duel is recognized. Victory shall be claimed by surrender, incapacitation, or death." The final word lingered in the air like a blade at the throat. Kaylee's raised her weapon. "Begin." She moved instantly. One moment she was standing still. The next, she was upon him, a blur of black and silver, her blade slicing through the air in a lethal arc aimed at his shoulder. A single strike would end this. But he moved. Daniel twisted, just barely dodging the plasma edge. He stumbled, but he was still standing. The crowd's amusement flickered. Kaylee's eyes narrowed. "Interesting." Daniel rolled his shoulders again, shaking off the near miss. "Okay, not gonna lie, that was terrifying. But you know what? I've had worse." Kaylee's didn't respond. Instead, she launched forward again, this time testing him with a rapid series of strikes, each one faster, sharper than the last. The first few he barely blocked. His sword, a simple Zarathian steel blade, wasn't built to match her weapon. The energy humming through her plasma edge should have cut through it easily. And yet, he was still here. Each block, each dodge, he was adapting. Kaylee's pressed harder, increasing her speed. She swung low. He jumped back. She feinted left. He didn't take the bait. The crowd was no longer laughing. Daniel, breathing hard, shot her a lopsided grin. "You're, a little quicker than I expected." Kaylee circled him, her golden eyes scanning his movements. "You're still alive. That is unexpected." He wiped sweat from his brow. "Trust me, I surprise myself all the time." Kaylee's didn't humor his banter. Instead, she lunged again, this time faster than before. This time, he couldn't dodge. Her blade grazed his side, slicing through fabric, leaving a thin, searing cut against his ribs. Daniel hissed, staggering back. He glanced down, then back up at her. "Okay, Al, was that really necessary?" He tugged at the ripped fabric of his shirt. "I mean, do you know how hard it is to get clothes that actually fit in an alien prison? Not a lot of human-friendly tailors in your empire." Kaylee's lips twitched, just barely, but she quickly masked it. Enough. It was time to finish this. She shifted her stance, preparing for the final strike. Daniel watched her, really watched. The way she moved, the way she shifted her weight, the subtle patterns in her attacks. And then, as she lunged, he reacted first. A sharp pivot, a perfectly timed sidestep. And then, his sword tapped the exposed part of her arm. A minor hit, but a hit nonetheless. The entire arena went silent. Kaylee's froze. Daniel grinned, breathless. "That's one." Her golden eyes burned into his. A flicker of something unreadable passed over her face. Then she attacked again. And this time, she wasn't holding back. Kaylee's golden eyes locked onto Daniel's, her expression unreadable. The energy between them had shifted. What was supposed to be a quick execution had turned into a contest, and that irritated her. She surged forward. Daniel barely had time to set his stance before she was on him again, a blur of motion, her plasma blade cutting through the air with terrifying precision. She wasn't simply testing him anymore. She was hunting him. Daniel dodged left, narrowly avoiding a strike that could have cut through his collarbone. The heat of the plasma edge sizzled against his skin, leaving a thin trail of burnt fabric in its wake. "Okay, that was a little too close," he huffed, stepping back. Kaylee's didn't respond. She pivoted instantly, twisting into another strike. Daniel blocked. Barely. The impact rattled through his arms, nearly knocking the sword from his grip. She was stronger than she looked. His entire body screamed in protest, muscles aching from the sheer force of the exchange. Kaylee struck again, relentless, unyielding. Faster, harder, sharper. Daniel barely had time to react before her blade came down in a vicious arc, aiming straight for his exposed side. He twisted at the last second, the plasma edge slicing the air where he had just been. His footwork faltered. His breath came in ragged gasps. She was pushing him to his limit. Kaylee's remained unreadable, her movements flawless. She wasn't even tired. Daniel exhaled sharply. "Yeah, okay, officially not having fun anymore." Kaylee's voice was calm, detached. Then surrender. Daniel scoffed. "You'd like that, wouldn't you?" She lunged again. He ducked, narrowly avoiding another lethal strike. Too close. His entire strategy had been to adapt, to read her movements, but she had stopped relying on patterns. Now, she was reading him. His mind raced. He needed an opening. Anything. Kaylee's faked a slash to his left, and instinctively, Daniel shifted his weight to counter. Too late. She twisted her blade mid-motion, redirecting the strike with lightning speed. A burning pain seared across his arm. Daniel gritted his teeth, stumbling back. He glanced down at the fresh cut, a clean, precise slice through the sleeve of his shirt. Blood beaded along the wound. Kaylee straightened, eyes locked onto him. You hesitate. Daniel flexed his fingers, shaking out the sting. Yeah, well, in my defense, it's hard to fight when someone's trying to vaporize your limbs. Kaylee took a step forward. This is combat. You are either strong enough to survive, or you are not. Daniel exhaled. All right, Terminator, we get it. You're scary. A murmur rippled through the crowd. They had expected a slaughter, not a battle. Daniel rolled his shoulders, eyes flicking over Kaylee's, studying her. Every move she made was deliberate, flawless. But something was changing. For the first time, she was paying attention. She wasn't just fighting him. She was learning him. Daniel grinned. You're actually enjoying this, aren't you? Kaylee's tilted her head slightly, expression neutral. You are still standing. That is interesting. Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. Yeah, I get that a lot. Then she moved, faster than before. This time, Daniel wasn't fast enough. Daniel barely had time to react before Kaylee's blade came down in a deadly arc, its plasma edge humming through the air. His instincts kicked in, and he dropped to the floor, feeling the heat of the energy blade slice just inches above his head. He rolled, barely managing to spring back onto his feet in time to block the next strike. The force of the impact nearly knocked his sword from his grip. Kaylee's wasn't just faster, she was relentless. Daniel gritted his teeth. His entire body was screaming at him to stop, to drop the damn sword and give up. But he couldn't. Not now. She pressed forward, each move calculated, measured. There was no wasted motion in her attacks, no hesitation. Every strike was a masterclass in combat precision. Daniel wasn't just fighting a warrior. He was fighting a perfected weapon. He ducked, parried, but he was slowing down. His legs felt heavy, his arms numb from the sheer force of deflecting each blow. His breath came in ragged gasps, sweat dripping into his eyes. Kaylee's noticed. She tilted her head slightly, watching him. You're fading, she said, voice calm, almost indifferent. Your endurance is failing. Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his wrist. Yeah? Well, so is my patience. Kaylee's arched a brow. Surrender. Daniel gave her a tired grin. Tempting, but I'd rather keep annoying you. Kaylee's golden eyes narrowed, and then she disappeared. Not literally, but to Daniel, it sure felt like it. 1 second she was standing in front of him. The next, she had closed the distance, her blade flashing toward his ribs. He had no time to dodge. Pain exploded through his side. The world tilted as he stumbled, nearly dropping to one knee. He pressed a hand against the wound, not deep but bad enough. Warm blood seeped between his fingers. Kaylee stepped back, lowering her blade slightly. It's over. Daniel laughed. It wasn't a strong laugh, more like a half-exhausted, half-delirious chuckle, but it was enough to make Kaylee's hesitate. You think this is over? Daniel grinned, wincing. Nah, this is where it gets interesting. Kaylee's expression shifted, just slightly. It wasn't frustration or irritation. It was curiosity. The crowd had fallen completely silent. The warriors who had once jeered and mocked were now watching with rapt attention. Daniel straightened, ignoring the pain. His grip on his sword tightened. Kaylee studied him, considering. Then, to his absolute shock, she smiled. It was faint, brief, but real. You continue to surprise me, Daniel Cross. Daniel gave her a bloody smirk. Stick around, sweetheart. I'm full of surprises. Kaylee's exhaled, gripping her blade tighter. Then let's see how many you have left. And just like that, the fight wasn't over. It was just getting started. Daniel barely had time to take a breath before Kaylee's moved again. She came at him like a storm, her blade a streak of blue fire as it slashed toward his chest. He barely managed to parry, the force of the strike jarring his entire arm. His grip almost failed. Almost. He pushed back, twisting to create distance, but she was already there. Another strike, this one at his ribs. He barely deflected it, feeling the heat from the plasma edge singe his shirt. Kaylee's wasn't just testing him anymore. She was escalating. Daniel's breathing was ragged, his muscles screaming, but he forced himself to stay focused. His brain raced, trying to find a pattern, an opening, something. She lunged again, blade slicing toward his shoulder. Instead of dodging, he leaned into it, letting the strike come dangerously close before twisting at the last second. The blade missed by mere inches, giving him just enough space to counter. His sword came up fast, too fast for her to completely avoid. The flat of his blade tapped against her side, just a light hit. Nothing that would wound, but it was a hit. The crowd gasped. Kaylee's froze, her golden eyes locking onto him. For the first time since the fight began, she looked surprised. Daniel grinned through his exhaustion. 2. Kaylee's exhaled slowly. Her ears twitched, an almost imperceptible sign of irritation, or maybe intrigue. "You are learning," she admitted. Daniel rolled his neck. "Yeah, well, I figure if I live past the first 30 seconds, I should start taking notes." Kaylee's took a step forward, lowering her blade slightly. "You fight differently than any human I have faced." Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow. "Is that a compliment?" "Because I'll take it." Kaylee's didn't answer right away. Instead, she studied him, really studied him. There was something in her gaze now, something that wasn't just calculated analysis. Curiosity. Daniel tensed slightly. That wasn't good. It meant she was about to change the game again. Kaylee's adjusted her stance. "You have lasted longer than expected," she said. "But I wonder, how much longer?" Daniel barely had time to process the words before she attacked again. This time, she wasn't just fast. She was unpredictable. The refined, disciplined technique she had been using before, gone. She had stopped relying on her usual precision and instead began mirroring him, switching styles, breaking rhythm, adapting as quickly as he did. Daniel's stomach sank. "Oh, come on," he groaned, blocking another strike. "You're stealing my strategy? That's just rude." Kaylee's lips twitched in amusement. "You adapted. So will I." Daniel barely dodged a low sweep. This wasn't good. Before, he had relied on spotting patterns in her fighting style. Now, there were none. She was moving with the same kind of fluid unpredictability he had used against her. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just better than him. She was evolving faster than him. Kaylee's came at him with a strike aimed for his side. He barely parried, the impact sending shockwaves up his arms. His fingers went numb for a split second. He took an unsteady step back. Her golden eyes flickered. "You are tiring," she noted. Daniel forced a grin. "Yeah, well, forgive me for not being a plasma-wielding space elf with unlimited stamina." She tilted her head slightly. "If you surrender, you will live." Daniel exhaled through his nose. "Yeah, but see, that's the problem." He steadied his grip. "I don't surrender." Kaylee's gaze sharpened. There was something behind her eyes now, something that hadn't been there before. Respect. Then she moved again. Faster, more precise. And Daniel knew this was it. If he didn't find a way to end this soon, she would. Daniel's muscles were screaming, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Every nerve in his body begged him to stop, to drop the damn sword and accept the inevitable. But he wouldn't. He couldn't. Not when he was this close. Kaylee's circled him slowly, her golden eyes unreadable. There was no smugness in her expression, no arrogance, only calm calculation. She was studying him, waiting. "You are at your limit," she said finally. Daniel wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his wrist. "Yeah? Funny thing about limits. People think they're a finish line. They're not. They're just a starting point for something worse." Kaylee's raised a brow. "You are still standing. But not for long." Daniel smirked. "Care to bet on that?" Kaylee's didn't answer. Instead, she attacked. This time, she didn't hold back at all. She moved with terrifying speed, her blade a blur of light, cutting through the air with surgical precision. Daniel barely dodged the first strike. The second caught the fabric of his sleeve, burning a thin line along his forearm. He hissed in pain, but didn't stop moving. Another strike, He blocked, his arms rattling from the impact. Another. He dodged barely. Another. Too fast. The blade cut across his ribs, not deep, but enough to steal his breath. Daniel staggered, dropping to one knee. The crowd murmured. A shift in tone. The end was near. Kaylee straightened, lowering her blade slightly. It is over. Daniel gritted his teeth. His entire body trembled. His vision swam. But he still had one move left. You talk too much, he muttered. Then, before she could react, he moved. It wasn't a clean attack. It wasn't elegant or precise. It was pure survival. Using what little strength he had left, he twisted, using his momentum to slam his weight into her, throwing her balance off for just a second. Just 1 second. It was all he needed. His sword came up, the flat of the blade tapping against her armor, a hit. Not fatal, not even painful, but a hit nonetheless. The crowd gasped. Kaylee's froze. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then she looked down, her golden eyes narrowing at the spot where his blade had touched her. Daniel grinned weakly. 3. A slow exhale left her lips. Then, to his complete and utter shock, she laughed. Not a mocking laugh. Not cruel. Genuine amusement. You are impossible, she murmured. Daniel, still kneeling, chuckled breathlessly. Yeah, I get that a lot. Kaylee studied him for another long moment. Then, to the absolute shock of every warrior in the arena, she stepped back and sheathed her sword. The duel is over, she declared. Silence fell. One of the high-ranking Zarathian warriors stepped forward, frowning deeply. Commander, the prisoner. Kaylee's cut him off with a sharp look. He fought for his freedom. He has earned it. Daniel blinked. Wait, what? She turned back to him, tilting her head slightly. You are free. Daniel let out a breathless, almost disbelieving laugh. Well, damn. Didn't see that coming. Kaylee's smirked faintly. Cool, mate. There is much to discuss. Then, as the warriors whispered in stunned disbelief, Daniel followed her out of the arena. No longer a prisoner, but something far more dangerous. Something unknown. Daniel followed Kaylee's through the winding corridors of the Oblivion's Fong, trying not to look as lost as he felt. The ship was massive, a maze of sleek metal and dim, humming lights. Warriors and officers paused to stare as they passed, some with curiosity, others with outright disbelief. A few glared like they wanted to shove a blade between his ribs just to see if he could block it. Kaylee strode ahead, her movements precise, unbothered. Daniel picked up his pace to walk beside her, rubbing his sore shoulder. So, just to clarify, he said, you're not about to kill me in a more creative way, are you? Kaylee's didn't even look at him. If I wished you dead, you would be. Daniel let out a breath. Wow, comforting. Really. Her lips twitched, almost imperceptibly. You have earned your freedom. But freedom aboard a warship is complicated. Yeah, Daniel muttered, eyeing a particularly large Zarathian warrior who looked like he wanted to throw him out an airlock. I'm getting that impression. The ship rumbled beneath them, a deep, steady vibration that pulsed through the floor. It was a sound of power, of something far bigger than himself moving through the void. He had been in plenty of places he didn't belong before, but this was different. He sighed, adjusting his grip on the sword still hanging at his waist. So, where exactly are we going? Kaylee's turned down another corridor, the door at the end hissing open automatically. The command deck. Daniel blinked. Oh, great. No pressure or anything. They stepped inside, and Daniel was immediately hit with the sheer scale of it. The command deck was massive, lined with platforms and sleek control stations that curved around a holographic star map, glowing in the center like a heartbeat. Zarathian officers moved between stations, their eyes locked on shifting tactical readouts. The entire place radiated controlled efficiency, like every single person knew exactly what they were doing at all times. Daniel, meanwhile, felt like an absolute idiot. One of the officers turned as they entered, his expression unreadable. Commander. His gaze flicked to Daniel. The human. Kaylee's nodded. He is no longer a prisoner. The officer didn't react, but Daniel swore he saw something shift in the man's eyes. Interesting decision, the officer said, his voice carefully neutral. Daniel clapped his hands together. Oh, I love when people say that about me. Always makes me feel like I'm about to get shot into space. Kaylee's ignored him, her attention shifting to the main display. A new alert flashed across the console. A shrill chime echoed through the deck. Kaylee's golden eyes narrowed. Report. The officer's fingers moved swiftly over the control panel. Commander, we are receiving a distress signal. Daniel's stomach sank. Kaylee's posture stiffened. Origin. The holographic map zoomed in, highlighting a sector of deep space. Outer perimeter, the officer said. A Zarathian scout vessel has engaged an unknown threat. Daniel stepped forward, studying the data on the screen. He didn't understand a single word of the alien script, but he recognized patterns, fluctuations in the readings, erratic energy signatures. He had seen something like this before. He exhaled. Yeah, that's not normal. Kaylee's gaze flicked to him. Explain. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Look, I'm no scientist, but I know what a standard distress signal looks like. This is different. It's not just calling for help. It's scrambling like something is interfering. The officer's brow furrowed. The transmission was cut off abruptly. Kaylee's jaw tightened. Hostiles. Unclear, the officer said. But whatever it is, it's not natural. Daniel rubbed his temples. Fantastic. Love a good, ominous mystery. Kaylee's turned to the crew. Alter course, she commanded. We are going to investigate. Daniel blinked. Whoa, hold on. You don't even know what it is. Kaylee's turned to him, expression steady. We do not ignore a distress call. Daniel exhaled. Yeah, see, this is why I never joined the military. The warship rumbled as the engines roared to life, altering their trajectory. The officers moved quickly, weapons systems coming online, shields activating. Daniel crossed his arms. Okay, just to clarify, on a scale of mildly concerning to we're all about to die horribly, where does this rank? Kaylee's glanced at him. That depends on what we find. Daniel sighed, shaking his head. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. The ship surged forward, streaking toward the unknown. The Oblivion's Fong tore through space like a spear, the engines humming with a steady, unnerving intensity. The bridge was tense, warriors standing at their posts, their expressions locked in cold determination. The distress signal had gone completely silent, but something still lingered in the void, something that hadn't been there before. Daniel stood beside Kaylee's, arms crossed, trying not to look as concerned as he felt. He didn't know much about interstellar military protocol, but he knew enough to recognize when something was very, very wrong. So, just to be clear, he muttered, we're flying toward the giant, ominous dead zone where a ship vanished without a trace. Kaylee's didn't look at him. Yes. Daniel exhaled. Fantastic. I was hoping for a little more caution, but nope, straight to let's poke the thing that probably eats planets. Kaylee's lips twitched slightly. You are free to remain here. Daniel scoffed. Oh yeah, because I trust a warship full of people who still want to stab me. Great plan. The warping field around the ship flickered, signaling their imminent arrival. A holographic countdown ticked down from 10. Daniel's stomach tightened. All right, let's see what fresh hell awaits us today. The ship dropped out of warp. Silence. Then, the wreckage came into view. Floating debris scattered the area, the shattered remains of what had once been a Zarathian scout vessel. Blackened metal, twisted and warped, drifted aimlessly, sparks of dying energy flickering in the abyss. But it wasn't the wreckage that made Daniel's blood run cold. It was the other ships. Sleek, angular crafts, pitch black with violet energy pulsing along their edges, hovered near the debris. They had no visible engines, no clear weapon systems, and yet they were moving. Kaylee's eyes narrowed. Unknown vessels. Hold position and identify yourselves. The silence stretched. Then, with no warning, one of the ships moved. It didn't accelerate. It flickered. One moment it was there, the next it was closer. Daniel stiffened. Okay, that's not normal. A voice, cold and layered, spoke from nowhere. You do not belong here. Daniel flinched. Yup, hate that. Hate that a lot. Kaylee's remained unshaken. Identify yourselves. The voice came again. Leave or be unmade. Daniel looked at Kaylee's. I vote leave. Kaylee's didn't even glance at him. We do not retreat. The ships flickered again, shifting positions like ghosts, phasing in and out of reality. Then they attacked. A violent arc of violet energy lashed toward them. The Oblivion's Fong trembled, shields flaring under the impact. The bridge erupted into chaos. Officers scrambling, weapons priming, alarms blaring. Shields failing, an officer called. Kaylee's remained calm, studying the enemy movements. Return fire. The cannons roared, plasma rounds streaking toward the enemy ships. But they didn't move like normal vessels. They twisted, phased, avoided every shot as if the laws of physics didn't apply. Daniel clenched his jaw. Yeah, that's cheating. Another blast hit them, sending a tremor through the warship. Commander, an officer shouted. We cannot hit them. Kaylee's eyes narrowed. She was watching them, calculating. Daniel stepped closer, his heart hammering. They're phasing. They're not fully here. Kaylee's exhaled. Target their energy signatures. Disrupt their frequency. Wait, Daniel said. That's actually a good plan. I hate that it makes sense. The weapons recalibrated, shifting to a new disruptive energy field. Fire. The next volley hit. One of the enemy ships froze. No flickering, no fussing. It was stuck. Daniel's eyes widened. Holy hell, that actually worked. Kaylee's didn't look at him. Now we talk. A pause. Then, from the captured ship, a new voice whispered. You have seen us. Daniel swallowed. Yeah, not by choice. The voice shuddered, like static vibrating in the air. You were never meant to. The ship shuddered violently, reality around it warping, bending. Daniel took a step back. Okay, I don't like that. Kaylee's voice remained steady. What are you? A pause. Then, softly, what remains? The air tensed. Daniel exhaled. That is not a reassuring answer. The ship flickered, destabilizing. A final whisper, more fragmented this time. You should not have come. And then, in an instant, it collapsed in on itself, vanishing into nothing. Daniel stood there, heart pounding, watching the empty space where the ship had been. Kaylee's gaze remained locked on the void. We need to leave. Daniel blinked. Wait, what? No, we must fight them. No honor in battle speech. Kaylee's golden eyes flickered. They were not fighting us, she said. They were warning us. Daniel felt a chill creep down his spine. Of what? Kaylee's turned to her crew. Set course for home. Daniel exhaled, running a hand down his face. I swear, if I get haunted by interdimensional space ghosts, I'm quitting this adventure. Kaylee's almost smiled. You could have left long ago. Daniel smirked tiredly. Yeah, well, where's the fun in that? The Oblivion's Fong turned, leaving the void behind. But Daniel knew, whatever they had encountered, it wasn't over. Here is the story ends. If you enjoyed and want to watch more thrilling sci-fi adventures, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Dive into epic battles, explore distant galaxies, and join brave heroes as they fight for survival against impossible odds. Let us know in comments if you want next chapters to publish soon. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and become part of the journey. Together, we'll keep the last light burning. Subscribe now and let the adventure continue.